It's the New OGs. The New OGs is a State Madison Entertainment production and is brought to you by Sun Life Solar. Sun Life is helping homeowners in Illinois take advantage of a program that lets them get solar power at no cost. If you are a single-family homeowner in the state of Illinois, you can lower your electric bill, raise the value of your home, and do something good for the environment without paying a single dollar out of your pocket to do so. In fact, Sun Life can only work with you if they can save you money. Sun Life is a SunPower dealer. It's an American panel maker with over 30 years of solar experience, which is pretty cool. They even have a referral program that pays out as much as $500 per referral. So do me a favor, head over to www.illinoissolar.today and get in contact for a free consultation or to refer someone you know. We are also brought to you by...
It's a completely free consultation?
Yeah, the consultation is free. And here's what's crazy. If you decide that you want to go solar and you qualify for it, you actually can get the panels without putting any money out of your pocket to do it. And they have to show you a cheaper bill. So it's a savings all the way around. It's insane. It's why it's the new thing that everybody's getting on board with. So get over to www.illinoissolar.today. Check that out. Make sure you get there. Also, we are brought to you by People of Comedy. That is the network that we are on right now. If you hear James in the background, he's there. People of Comedy has a ton of podcasts. You got to get over to their page. You should follow that page. Subscribe to their YouTube and Twitch channels as well. They have live shows. They have recorded shows. They have, moms raising kids doing their podcasts. They have a podcast about, I think they have a podcast called the Pussy Poppin' Podcast or something.
We do.
They've got a podcast. They have a podcast called Hillary, which is somehow not political. There's all kinds of shows. You got to go over to People of Comedy and check them out. Also, there are some comedy clubs that are opening back up during this. Zanies is one of them. Zanies is doing shows. They're doing live shows. Make sure you get over to www.zanies.com for the downtown Chicago location. Socially distanced, masked, the whole 9 yards. If you are going to go out, make sure that you treat your servers well and that you do it as safely as possible. And from what I understand, Zanies is following all those things. So hopefully that ends up working out well. Guys, what is going on? How is everybody doing?
I'm doing super fantastic, man.
Yeah?
Yeah,
That's nice. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, well, I figured out don't start drinking the tea until the show starts, and in that way, I'll be okay.
You have a better chance of getting through it if you wait until the show starts to start getting into the tea. Is that
yeah? Psilocybin doesn't fully kick in until like maybe 45 minutes for me.
I like how
we're ending the show.
I like how this is now your Friday, your new Friday ritual. Is that now you are the Friday tea guy, where every Friday we get together and we start talking. Before we're done, you are like deep into some tea.
Hey man, I start ordering like real shit, man. I got like some pomegranate crossed with it's like green tea pomegranate joint coming. Some blood orange tea, baby. It's dope.
Oh yeah, you got blood orange tea.
Mm-hmm.
What is that all about? It's
about deliciousness. Is what it's all about. It's about
nice.
Deliciousness.
Nice. That's sweet, man. How's your week been? What you been up to besides eating mushrooms?
My week is it's not my whole life, Bobby. It's just a big part of it. Week was cool. I did like some like old school dad shit, which I call it old school dad shit because I am not a handy person. I don't fix shit. And I helped my son build a basketball rim in his mom's backyard. So he has his own like rim to just go practice every day. And it's pretty dope. I'm pretty excited because there's stuff he could work on now that I didn't really want him working out on in just random parks with other people. He was
not much of a basketball player before, right? He was
no kind of basketball player before. He was zero kind of basketball player before. He has grown more in 1 year without a lot of coaching. Because I'll be honest with you, mostly I was just trying to get him moving like an athlete.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to like teach him like how to do spin moves or anything like that. Hell, I was just trying to get him to run up and down the court and not look like a robot.
Sure.
And so we're spending a lot of time on that. And on his own, he's been trying to learn stuff. And he's not good.
Right.
But he looks like a basketball player now. He looks like he's played basketball before.
Right.
Like on the basketball court, he looks like, that's the beginning.
Start, right?
Now this is the base, we used to have a saying, shout out Sean Vernon. We used to have a saying when we worked together, I used to work together with this guy, that I could take you from good to great, But if you're fuck all, you're fuck all. I can't. I'm not turning a donkey into a Kentucky Derby horse winner. Like you're a donkey. Go away.
You can't get past that. So you're training him now.
This kid just happens to be 6'5", 250 pounds, and he's stronger than me.
That's such an amazing thing, dude.
Yeah, I stopped him from taking boxing lessons when he was 7, and I'm so happy about that shit right now. This seems like a fucking genius move. Like,
now that he's 15, it's perfect. It's the perfect time to realize that this was it was an excellent decision not to do that.
Yeah, I kept thinking like, man, maybe he'd been more athletic if he had stayed with boxing, but he'd knock me the fuck out if he had stayed with boxing, and I can't have that. So
fuck that. No, that's not allowed. You can't let that go down. So that's pretty crazy, man. So he's got a hoop up now, so he's working out.
Yeah, he's working out. And I think whenever this breaks, hopefully, I think second semester, I think they'll be back in school full. And that's not like any kind of pressure thing.
Sure.
Fauci said something earlier today that perhaps late fall that they might be able to start producing the vaccine.
Right.
That would mean kids would probably be able to go back to school in like February. So
yeah, I mean that would be I think that'd be decent, kids going back to school. I mean, so there's just it's such a shame that the whole thing gets kind of taken to where it is, you know what I mean? Which we're definitely gonna get into. But it is such a shame that it gets kind of like so twisted into how it is. I mean, we are going to talk about that, but there's been a ton of other stuff that I want to get into before that. I want to talk about some of the good trouble that's been going on this whole past week. The biggest news, I think, came yesterday with the situation that the FBI is now going to open an investigation into the murder of Breonna Taylor. Did you see that at all? I mean,
I did not see that. I did not see that. Did that break today or last night?
It was like yesterday, kind of like during the day. It was like late morning, something like that.
Yeah, I'll be a little bit honest. I was comatose pretty much from like 5 p.m. until this morning. I did a lot of traveling, a lot of traveling, driving. So
you've been doing some quarantine, social distance, close funning.
There you go.
No better way to word that than some quarantine and social funning, right? I don't have a better way to kind of put that out there. Yeah, the FBI is opening an investigation of Breonna Taylor's murder. I think the reason why it doesn't have a whole lot of fanfare is like, I mean, come on, dog. What's the history? What's the history of the FBI?
Going after cops, right?
I mean, the reality is like that should be, the FBI is not the police, so it shouldn't be necessarily the same situation. And like, there's a distinct possibility but I'm just speaking in like, that's the most devil's advocate terminology.
Bobby, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but probably 4 or 5 years ago, Rachel Maddow had a piece on the FBI and how they had 150 agent shootings. 150 times agents shot somebody. And you know how many times those agents were right? 150 times.
Yeah,
150 times. Not one time was an agent ever wrong for killing a motherfucker.
Don't get me wrong. I don't have any illusions that is going to continue on here, right? Like I am absolutely confident that they are not going to do anything. They just, who was it? Homeboy. Was it Michael Brown? They just said they're not charging the cops in that either. I mean, I don't expect to get justice. That's why I'm so supportive of all the actions that are going on right now in regards to, changing the way that we police neighborhoods. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it defunding. Yeah.
The thing that's amazing about Louisville is I have been telling people for 20 years, damn near 20 years, over 20 years.
Yeah.
How racist Louisville is. Louisville was my first college. I went to University of Louisville before I went to St. Joe's, where I graduated from.
Right.
And Louisville had like a level of racism that was insane. And when somebody says you can't assume it's racism, they're investigating and stuff like that. to be so, I don't care fuck what they're investigating, to see all the pressure, everything, like nobody's letting up on them, and to have that going on, and to not even act like they're going to indict somebody, to not even have, you don't have anything to take to a grand jury yet. Like how is that? How could it be possible that it could be taking that long? It just doesn't make sense. And they're just trying to stall out until people forget about it, and people aren't going to fucking forget about it this time. You're going to fucking bring those dudes up, or something's going to happen.
Yeah, we have to get to a result. You know what I mean? We've got to get to a result in that where there's some type of, we've got to get to, we need to find out whether we're going to come up with some charges and really, put this to bear and see what's going on with it. Or we have to determine that we're going to have to look at this a different way. And, the response so far to get to this point, it's that thing where it's like, look at how hard we had to work just to get to this part. All the protesting, all the sit-ins, all the, including the violence, including the property damage, including all the shit that everybody's mad about, like all of that is what it took to get to here. It has all been required. None of it was more than what was necessary, because if it was more than what was necessary, then they would have done something 2 weeks ago, a month and a half ago.
At least have the balls to just say, you know what, we ain't gonna do it.
Right. Yeah.
We ain't charging.
So I mean, I hope it's
I have the balls to do that.
I hope it's good trouble. I would love to see something positive come out of that, like always, like that's the other thing too, is that there's this idea that because we feel like there's a necessity for a movement recognizing the fact that Black Lives Matter or something like that, or the idea that we might be against fascism, which is, how dare we, that like we want the exact opposite. Like we don't want there to be some order. Like of course we want some order, we just don't want shooting black people who are unarmed is not order either. You know what I mean? Like that's not order.
But Bobby, here's what I've come to realize, and I honestly, I will be completely honest, and some people might think I'm honest. I'm about to say, I didn't understand this before, but they really believe that that's order. Yeah, they believe killing a few niggas every now and then is order, because that's how you tame them. That's how you keep them in line. That's how you keep them from crossing the line. You got to break a few.
Yeah.
That's their mentality. What are they getting so upset for?
I have said this a couple of times, and I've mentioned it, and I think people kind of skim over it in regards to how some, not all, how some white Americans see people who aren't white. And that is as lesser beings, period. Like their core, there are people whose core belief is, listen, some of us are going to make it, some are not. So we should go for hours no matter what. And like those who excel at great levels, hey man, however you won the game, you won the game. And those who don't make it, well, too bad. We'll set aside some services for those of you who couldn't do any better, but everybody else, you're kind of on your own. And they believe that's the best way society moves forward. And nobody that's the big disconnect between how some people feel about some of these issues and how other people feel about these issues.
You know what? I used to kind of be a person who believed that. And because I was naive about a lot of shit, because I had. Are you calling me naive right now? I was naive about a lot of shit, and I think that's what a lot of those people are. Well, some are naive, and some of them are purposely what they are. But
absolutely.
Because if it really was about merit, you wouldn't be putting up roadblocks, motherfucker. You wouldn't have to do all this extra shit.
I don't think they believe it's about merit. I think they actually believe that black people are lesser beings, period. And so that's where call it naive, being naive, call it whatever you want. Like there are just people that believe that
people think lesser beings, they're not naive, they're just assholes.
Yeah, there are people that just believe that if you're born into success, hey, you won the luck of the draw and you should maximize it and fuck everybody else who tries to climb up. I mean, that's just how, it's just there's a huge difference in the way that some people believe this system is supposed to work and how societies are supposed to work. But honestly, once you get to three people living around each other, you're in a society where freedoms are going to be compromised. With two people, you can decide to kill the other person. There's nobody to hold you for it, right? Like, there's only two people. You can kill that other person. You can do anything you want, and no matter what happens, if you can, if you can exert dominance over the other person, you are the victor. You control the rules, right? And so your freedom could be as great as you can make it. But once you get to three people, now you have an opportunity where two people can be opposed to you. And now the only way it's going to work is if you have compromise. And from three people on, there is some version of freedom you must relinquish for the process to work at all, for society, for the civilization to operate. There is a compromise of freedoms that has to happen. And some of that is in taxes, and some of that is in your generation's version of the leg up. I mean,
I don't believe freedom has any fuck all to do with any of it. I don't think freedom has.
I don't think it does either.
Because
I don't think it does either. I'm just painting them in their own corner with it. You know what I mean? They need to be put into their own corner on the bullshit.
Talk about freedom in America as if it's some kind of commodity shit we only have here.
Right.
Like I've lived in another country before, nigga. Freedom is like a lot of places.
Well, I think that's my point, though, is that like freedom is always just like a variation on a theme, right? Like it's all about levels of, like, once you have three people, no matter what type of, it's all a version of a freedom.
It's power, man.
They want
the power and the money.
Of course.
They like being in charge, because even if you're not a white person who is on the side of that, even if you're a white person who is wholly against it and fighting on my side with me, you still like you still have the advantages of it, and secretly deep down inside of you admit it, you like it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
One of the things I've always said,
right. It gives me advantages over motherfuckers. I like that.
Right. One of the things I've always said is that if you figured out a way to rule the world or control how money operates, and then create a world that operates on money, like, of course you would do things to try and maintain that power. Why would you give that power up if you figured it out? Like, it's a rational concept. It's not altruistic. There's nothing about that that's actually for the betterment of people if you feel that way. But I understand how you could be corrupted, which is why it makes so much sense when I see people who are corrupted by those concepts, right? Somebody who I don't think was corrupted by those concepts was John Lewis. He passed away along with C.T. Vivian, who for some reason has got if you die at the same time as John Lewis, you're going to get the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of civil rights guys who are still alive who have died
all over again.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of civil rights people who are still alive now from the 60s who could die the same day as John Lewis and get as much coverage. But there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people. Period. No. Alive now that could die. Period. The same as John Lewis. Did you see Obama speak about Lewis? Did you see his speech? There's been a lot of talk about Obama's speech. Of course, Trump threw a press conference up at the same time.
Yeah, and it was trash. It was trash. His press conference was so I told you I was out of it for most of the day yesterday.
Right.
I went to see my lady, and we spent a lot of time.
You have to explain. We all know how that works. People watch the show enough to know what's up.
I was fatigued. But I kept listening to over and over. I was listening to the Obama speech, and then they played the fucking Trump thing, and it just sounded like somebody, like a girl that her ex just got a new girlfriend, and then she like post something really dramatic on Facebook or something just to get the attention. Like, that's exactly what he was doing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put gender to it, because guys do that same shit.
Yeah, guys do that shit too.
Shit. Like a person.
People who can't handle that always do that. Jealous people do that shit all the time.
It's exactly what it was like, man. It was just
so petty and small.
It was so obvious, but it was like blatant. Like, you could see it.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, that's the thing that kills me about it, is that everybody talks like he's this like super like manly man, and like, I mean, in a way that's true, because that level of like actual sensitivity is like classic toxic man shit. Like, when people argue about toxic masculinity, you're like, that's the type of shit that we're talking about, where you're so you couldn't let this man listen. You couldn't let this dude you have so much problems with. You couldn't let this man get up there and give a eulogy without having to try and upstage a eulogy that not your predecessor, not even a guy. He didn't compete against Barack and lose. He didn't compete against Barack and beat him. They're separate presidents. They're not even in the same thing. You know what I mean? Like,
like all he's been doing his entire career is, I'm better than Obama.
Yeah, trying to prove it. But like, you know, he fails even in that, right? Like, even in that situation, the class level to not do that is a failure, right? Like, you can't even get past that part. Where else he's failing, the feds are leaving Portland. Did you see news about that at all? Have you been paying attention?
I did see news about that. They're not leaving until they clean Portland up. They out, nigga. They outie.
Yeah. So the feds got the word they were supposed to be leaving Portland. They were no longer involved in any of the attempts to like any of the protest shit. They were out on all that. Portland had one of the quietest nights of protesting it's had in the last 60 fucking days. Almost entirely, obviously, because that there are a bunch of people that were out that were like, normally I'd be running through the streets at this time of night, and now I'm just sitting in the grass and hanging out. So, you know, good. I mean, nothing could be more. Again, it's another example of the failure of this administration at a time when, like, you know, and it's in a situation that they have also helped continue to push on, right?
It's insane that people can't see what he's doing. I mean, I watched The Daily Show, and they did a really, really great breakdown. They looked at 2014 when the white guys were holed up on that forest preserve.
Yeah, remember that shit? Right? What the fuck was that?
These motherfuckers have weapons. These motherfuckers have weapons and shit, and just took some shit hostage. They literally took a piece of American
federal property.
And
federal property, right?
These motherfuckers, federal preserve, they took it, right? And I think they even had hostage. I think they had like a ranger or whatever, or two hostage for a minute. Now, these niggas had snacks and all kind of shit up there. Like they was up there like it was a weekend retreat or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But these motherfuckers, Obama sent the feds up there, or the feds during Obama's term, because I'm not sure if Obama actually was like, send the motherfuckers up there. You know, go.
Hold on.
I said, send the motherfuckers.
Remember when somebody sent them a box of dildos? Remember that? Somebody sent them a
Yes. But they did the comparison of how Fox News covered that versus how Fox News is talking about this. And like literally it's amazing. It's just amazing split screen. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, all those motherfuckers talking about the exact same scenario and how it was totally okay for what Trump's doing with the feds coming in to clean up the city, and then the exact same shit where the feds just went to talk, didn't start no shit, just went to like, hey man, y'all fucking took our property, give it back. These motherfuckers like he was a terrorist, man, like he was a dictator.
That's just crazy shit, dude. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And that's the stuff that, like, they grilled Bill Barr on that when he was in front of investigators, which we still have a conversation to be had about Bill Barr and his ridiculousness. They took so long to get him up there. They had so much shit to talk about with him. But that was one of the things they brought up was the disparity in his protection of one group of things versus another and the racial motivations behind that. So he's probably going to be fucked at some point, hopefully, when this is all over.
You know,
that's anger right there.
He was with Louis Gohmert like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And I'm not wishing nothing. That's not what I do. Karma, you know how I feel about this. But he was with Louis Gohmert 2 days ago. You know, Louis Gohmert got the COVID. So.
Yeah, speaking of that, Herman Cain, who is
Mr. Coke.
Herman Cain, who's one of the 9 people who are black who vote for President Trump.
Now it's down to 8.
Down to 8. He's losing. I posted that about how Trump lost almost a whole percentage point because Herman Cain died. You know, I don't wish death on people. I don't wish death on Donald Trump. I don't want him to die. I'm agnostic, right? So like, I don't know what happens after you die anyway. So the idea that like I would want death for somebody is weird. It's a weird thing to hope for because I think being here can be super punishing. You know, like I think there's a lot of like,
I don't think come from 2021 on, having a last name Trump is going to be a cool thing to have.
I mean,
Like,
I'd like to believe that's true, but the reality is like, I know for sure that like there are penalties available here that are worthwhile, right? And so I don't know what the fuck goes on after this. Who knows? Maybe there is no penalty after this. Maybe it's all reward. Maybe everybody goes to heaven. Maybe there is no heaven. Maybe there's nothing. Who knows, right? But I know here, I know some shit that can go down. So like, I don't really wish death on people, but sometimes when people like flout the idea of thing that can cause death and then die by that thing, there is a level of comedic irony in that. And Herman Cain has been an anti-mask guy. He tweeted a bunch of times about how COVID was not real and made up and it was bullshit and wasn't hurting anybody and all these things. And that is fine, except it's not fine because he shares that information. Other people believe that. He pushes people to go to a rally. He goes to a rally, doesn't wear a mask. It's the Tulsa rally within what is probably an appropriate. What's that?
It was 9 days.
9 days after he was at the Tulsa rally, he tests positive, which is about a decent amount of time, but it doesn't even matter. Like
it's a 2 week, 10 day to 2 week window.
So here's the thing, though, is like people are like, oh, he probably got at the Tulsa rally, or people are going, you can't connect it to the Tulsa rally. But the point is that it doesn't matter, right? Because this is a guy who ran around saying that masks were bad and that we shouldn't have to be wearing masks. Nobody should be forced to wear a mask. And he wasn't going to wear a mask. And then he showed up at a bunch of places with no mask on. Then he got a disease that he thought was bullshit due to a thing that he was telling everybody not to do. And now that guy is dead.
From that thing.
And he's black. And he's a Trump supporter. And I want to see all the white people that love to share videos of all the black Trump supporters whenever they do their shit, share some videos about him talking about masks. That's what I want to see. Those are the videos they need to share now.
Yeah. I have on my XL comedy page, I posted a thing of a guy who passed away, and I wasn't even making fun of him. It was just to make the point. He was complaining about the masks weren't real. Then there was a picture of him out at like a swim park. And there was a picture of a tweet from him about how COVID sucked and he couldn't breathe. And the fourth window was his fucking obituary. Right. And I wasn't doing it to make fun of the dude. I was saying like, hey, this shit is real. Wear the fucking mask, man.
Right.
Like, because it's not killing you to wear the mask. You don't have to wear the mask at home.
No.
Unless you're with somebody that has it. You don't have to wear the mask at home. You don't have to wear the mask at any place, other than when you're interacting with other motherfuckers, man. Like, it's insane to me that it's even a question.
I think it's a shame.
Embarrassing. It's embarrassing as an American. Like, it's literally embarrassing that we were the only place that had this fight. It's starting to happen a little bit in other countries, but it was only here. Every place else in the world, when they had to be told, there was a little bit of people wanting to go outside, but when they said stay the fuck in and wear the mask, they did it. We were the only ones that couldn't figure the fucking shit out.
Well, you know why that is? It's because we're the only place that's not going to guarantee income for people, and we're a place that is not income for employees and not income for small businesses. And because there is such a large percentage of this country that relies on their version of their independent small business, if you aren't helping them, and you've also created an environment in which you've made it them versus employees instead of employees and small business owners versus giant corporations. I've never seen a place where so many people make 120,000 and think they're a heartbeat away from Bezos money. You're not. You're not. There's so many people that vote like they're Bezos, but they're not close to where Bezos is financially. They're not in that room. They're closer to being homeless again than they are. Like, the same people who can't have their business shut down for 2 weeks because they'll lose everything will vote like they already have Zuckerberg's wealth. And that doesn't work. Those two things are not congruous, right? Those don't work together. And they don't realize it because part of this idea of American exceptionalism is believing that you are a heartbeat away from being Zuckerberg. Yeah. And you're just not. I mean, you like the intense happiness you should have at making 120 and how much you should fight with the people making 50 against the people who have $1 billion should be obvious when if you could conceptualize the difference between $120,000 and $1 billion. But
I saw something that was terrific. It was like trying to get, because people don't understand how big a billion is. Just 1 billion. So they said $1 million is like 11 minutes.
Right.
And $1 billion was like 31 days. Like that was the difference. Hey, by the way, if somebody knows what this is correct and I have the numbers wrong, don't fuck with me on the numbers. So you know how high I get during this show. Or if you're new to the show, I get high during the show. So I don't know if I have the numbers right. My memory might be foggy.
But it's close. It's like days, something like that, though.
Versus minutes. That's my point. It's days versus minutes. It was more. Definitely more than a week.
I think that's right.
Days I think that's minutes, right. And that's the point.
Listen, if it was 11 minutes versus 3 days, that is still a separation you will never overcome, right? Like 11 minutes versus 3 days is too much. You know what I mean?
Here's the crazy thing. Here's a crazy thing. This is how stupid people are about money.
Yeah.
I believe, now again, don't know if I have the numbers exactly right, but I believe Jeff Bezos is worth somewhere in the area of $150 billion to $170 billion, right?
Right. Who knows now? Yeah, probably. It's probably close.
You took $100 billion from him and left him with $50 billion. He had all of his rights to his company. He had all of his stock. Yep. We took $100 billion from him and gave it to the poorest 50% equally.
Right.
He would be worth $300 billion by like the end of the fucking, because he would get all of it back. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen? Everybody's just gonna buy shit on eBay or Amazon rather, and eBay. And all those motherfuckers are going to make money, and Google's going to make money, and Facebook's going to make money, and everybody's going to make money.
Yeah, he'd be straight.
Like, people are so worried about billionaires. Like, you know what I mean? I'm worried about taking my money. We took the fucking money from the billionaires. It's going to go right back to the billionaires.
Yeah, we're just going to spend our money there.
Billionaires and people who are struggling will be able to breathe and enjoy fucking life. And we'll be able to educate our kids, and we'll have health care for everybody. And the billionaires will still be fucking billionaires. Yep. Even more so.
Yep. Yeah, those are all real things.
Maybe a few of us will figure out some new shit, and there'll be like 8 of them instead of 6.
Right. Maybe there'd be like 7 entertainment companies instead of 4. You know, like
yeah. You know, like you're gonna get another streaming service. Woohoo! It's gonna be some new shit. It's gonna be groovy because we help some people out, and they've got a chance to be creative and do some shit, or they got a chance to create like.
That's why we're not shut down, though. I mean, that's the thing, though. That's why. So when people go, I don't get why America's struggling so bad, it's because we've got a system that is based on this idea of like propping up these tiny businesses that are reliant on like nothing bad ever happening for their survival, and convincing those people that they have like some type of human right to have that business. And therefore, it's okay to put other lives at risk to maintain it, versus the idea that starting a business is as much of a chance that you're taking as getting employed by a company. You can get fired from a company one day and be out on your ass too. And you can own a business and the market could, I mean, you know, guys that made typewriters thought they had it going great too for a long time. And then all of a sudden computers came along and they're like, shit. You know, like the guy who designed horse-drawn carriages, some of those guys are out of a job now, you know.
We may have said this before, but it's incredible how much the people who always tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just have some ingenuity, and you should be saving for emergencies, always need to be bailed the fuck out every time there's an emergency, every time there's a major emergency, every time there's any kind of catastrophe. These motherfuckers immediately they don't got rent for the next week, and they're yelling at us for not having rent for the next fucking month. Like, it's insane.
This is what Bernie was talking about, though, is that it's socialism for the rich and it's capitalism for everybody else, right? Like, that's the thing, is that there's always a bailout available. If you're a church, if you're a multi-million-dollar church, you get a bailout. If you're a billion-dollar company, you can get a bailout. But, you know, the fight to try and get people more than $1,200, the argument over this extra $600 for people. And what are we getting out of it? You look at sports, right? They try to restart the baseball season. 18 players from the Marlins have tested positive now for coronavirus. 18. A roster in baseball, if you're not a sports person, is 26. They don't even have enough to put on a field. If they didn't sub anybody and they just went with everybody who was healthy on the field, they couldn't field the team right now.
They play a little league style, nigga.
They got to play.
Everybody pitching.
They got to play Atari baseball style where there's no shortstop. It's just that's what's. I mean, And then today they find out there's 2 players from the Cardinals who tested positive. They were just in Minnesota. They arrived in Milwaukee. They were supposed to play today. That game got canceled, and so it's not. They're out in the world. They're traveling. They have all this travel going on. They're traveling from location to location, and they are testing positive. It's just because they have to try to keep the economy going.
How the NFL doesn't see this and say, all right, we got to do some kind of bubble. Like how they don't figure this out.
There is no way. There's
I can
no way.
I can give you an NFL bubble that they could do.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
They can have the teams post up in hotels near their stadiums, right? The players are not allowed to leave the hotel. The hotels are fucking hospital sharp clean. They can. It's the NFL. They can afford to make sure everybody comes in that motherfucker is double checked and all stuff. Everything's checked, and there's nobody coming in and out. It's just the players, their families. There's enough hotels and space in there for a fucking football team and their families. They all lock down, and everybody has that space. And
right.
The only time the team travels is to go from their hotels to the stadium or to the airport to fly to the other stadium.
Sure. I mean,
for practice, because it's across, they get it close. There's always hotels around the stadium. They get their hotel, they go from the hotel to the stadium. They're not interacting with anybody. The NFL could pay for this and do this if they wanted to have a clean season, because the NBA is going to end up being the only team with the season, and they're going to end up seeing a bunch of people that aren't going to go back. I think
the NBA and the NHL are the only ones going to have a season, and they're both operating the same way. And that way is they're on a complete lockdown where there is just the bubble, and it's like a campus environment.
Unless a nigga needs some wings.
At the strip club. Not just wings, but wings from the strip club. Unless you need wings from the strip club.
Hey man, I've heard multiple sources say Magic City has amazing food.
That's what the rumor is. I have not tested it myself, but from what I understand,
Shout
that's
out
the
to
case.
The Morehouse man in Atlanta.
People in Morehouse love shout outs. Magic City Wings love shout outs too. But no, the thing is like it's not going to work for football. They've already canceled everything. That's all the preseason stuff is already canceled. All the non-conference football games are canceled. It is like you can't lock down 32 teams that way. You'd think it like the thing is they could schedule if they would change the schedule now because games are a week apart. They could potentially try and like quarantine teams in a way in which you
Why couldn't each team quarantine their team in the hotels? Like there's probably enough suites.
Here's the reality. Here's the reality is we're trying to figure out a thing for something that shouldn't be happening. That's the truth. Is that like the truth is like everybody just needs to go, look, we're going to take a fucking mulligan on 2020, 2021 season. We'll catch on 2020, 2021, work out hard at the crib, learn some shit. We're going to file an insurance claim for the season, like hopefully they won't invoke force majeure. Hopefully they won't invoke force majeure and not pay out on it. But this is exactly what
Bobby, I want the players to get paid, obviously, because the players look like us.
Right. But, that's the only thing I wanted it for, though. I just want it for that.
This is by definition of force majeure, man.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like there should be something that should cover owners in a situation or the league in a situation in which like this is happening. And again, this goes back to the fact that we have a government set up in style that does not have any type of countermeasures for when tragedy happens, right?
Neither one of us have any loss or hurt feelings for the NFL. And this is what I would say. I was just thinking about it. And you know what? Fuck this. This is a problem with this is one of the major problems with America is we don't let business people take L's because we act like they're the only ones. Like
right.
They're the only ones sometimes because they squeeze other motherfuckers out. Or basically, that's it. I don't have to give you another explanation. That's
we'll talk about that later too.
Yeah, they squeeze motherfuckers out. But like other people will replace them. It always works like that. Like it always works like that. There will be somebody else. There'll be another fucking Walton family.
That's the whole point. I thought that's what the deal was here. I thought that's what the whole game plan was to like have this thing where like the idea of capitalism is supposed to be that continuous like churning, right? A turnover where like people rise in power and capital and kind of regress in capital. But I feel like if the overall fight isn't to raise up the lowest among you to elevate the entire thing, what is the point? And for me, a lot of times what I run into with capitalist societies is the idea that like the ones who get to make it are all that get out and everybody else is just kind of fucked and doomed. And if we got some extra dough and someone wants to privately give it to them, fine. But otherwise, hey, listen, man, fuck you. I mean, that's literally it. All that pull yourself up by your bootstrap shit is basically being like, hey, listen, you either can make it or you can die in the streets, right? And those things are not, I don't think that's compatible with a society that will ever work long term, because at some point people get tired of dying in the streets or people manipulating the system to put people in a position where they will die in the streets. None of that works. Yeah, the coronavirus shit has been crazy. There's been this trot out of these new frontline doctors. Did you watch any of that video of these made up doctors?
Yeah. The doctor, I can't remember.
Stella Emanuel.
Stella Emanuel. There you go. Stella Emanuel.
Yeah.
Man, that bitch. She's a crazy one.
So, like, here's the thing I'll say about Dr. Stella Emanuel, who claims that gynecological problems are sometimes caused by having sex with demons in your dreams. That's the thing she claims. Hold on, hear me out. Here's the thing. If you are having sex with a demon in any realm, I can see how that could cause you some issues. If you're finding a real demon to fuck, I can see how that could be an issue. I find it weird that anybody who has heard her say that has gone back for a second appointment. That part throws me, that someone hears that you could sit in a woman's office who claims to be a doctor and she's like, and you're like, listen, I am having issues with whatever this gynecological issue is. And she goes, well, do you have dreams where you fuck demons? And you're like, now that you bring that up, and she's like, see,
I have been having them dreams. That has to be what happens next, right? That's the only way you stay. That's the only way you don't act like you got an emergency phone call and pull your panties back up and walk the fuck out.
How many people did she diagnose us in where they were like, you are absolutely right. That is exactly what my problem is. I have been having sex with demons in my dreams. How many people are having sex with demons?
If you are a fan of the show, of the New OG show, please write us and tell us about your demon fucking dreams. How often you've been fucking demons in your dreams, if this is a common thing. Because if it is, we need to hashtag that shit or something, because I didn't know. Get awareness out there. If I didn't know, there's got to be a lot of people who don't know.
Yeah, there's enough demons in real life to fuck. You don't have to fuck demons in your dreams. There's plenty of us that we can have. We don't need to have any of those in there. So.
Also, I want somebody, like, a little bit of professionalism. I believe there's a contract we're not supposed to talk about this. She's like, demon sperm. Come on, man. I'm a professional. Be fucking professional.
Well, the other thing too is like, I think it's odd that there's a doctor out there who's talking about demon sperm and like sex with demons, how that can affect you. Like, it's weird to say that when there's still a large portion of this country that will go to a building on Sunday and pray to some omnipotent being they think is going to save them from a fiery hell, right? Like, that is also weird as shit if you look at it, right? Like, demon sperm, like, sure, demon sperm is crazy, but also believing there is some guy who walked on water and now nobody can walk on water is also fucking crazy. All right, like, that is also when you take away our history.
Jerusalem was hot like most of the time. What if they just had like a light freeze over and that nigga was like, "Oh, check this out." He was like, "Hey, check this out. Check this out."
Dude, it's just like, I it's, the same people who will carry crystals in their pocket and make wishes at 11:11 and do all that shit will also say that a lady who believes demon sperm is real is crazy. And that just, those are all the same thing to me, really, when it comes down to it. Those are all those are all the same thing to me when it comes down to it's all nutso shit. Believe like that is all, like I said, I'm agnostic to the core. So all that is odd to me. It's all a weird concept.
I say this, Bob. I'll say this, Bob. I have come to believe that God is to us what we are to ants. Or ants are to us. Like, that's how he sees us. We are not as significant to him as we like to believe that we are. Because if we were, then he's a horrible motherfucker or bad at his job, or like maybe he's disorganized. I don't know. I'll put a lot on him. I'll put a lot on him. He's a deity. Have I created a whole existence? No. Could I? Probably. Maybe. Give me some time. But
the truth is, our whole concept is based only off of what our human brain has gotten us to, as far as like being able to even create concepts at our age to this point, right? So like of all the time and millennia that has existed in the world, we've had somewhere in the range of 40 years of it to come up even with the idea of what type of concepts we could even imagine a god to be. And to think that that is enough to know it is just silly to me.
B. This motherfucker said he the only God, but then get mad if we worship another God. Nigga, you the only one. You know you the only one. Why you mad? Weird, that's some weird jealousy shit.
Exactly.
Man.
I don't.
You
the whole
know,
concept is
the only
weird.
one. I ain't. You know.
Like, here's the thing. I'm not just shitting on it in general, like out of hand. Like, I'm not just like, oh, this is bullshit and I have no reasons. It's like, how are you looking at this? Like, you have to look at that, and at some part of you got to be like, yeah, that's just kind of a leap we're taking. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a part where you're like, I'm just kind of guessing here, you know? It's just, there's no real proof. There's no real tacit shit. Speaking of that, you see they had Fauci and Redfield in front of Congress today, right? They had the actual world's leading epidemiologist as an alternative to the frontline doctors. By the way, hold on.
Like a Dracula or Frankenstein movie, but go ahead.
By the way, those frontline doctors those frontline doctors, the website that is like backing them has been up for approximately 2 weeks. So it's like I think it's important though, because I think people need to like really understand like where this is coming from, because everybody acts like these people are being like shut. Like, not everybody. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. There are a lot of people who are opposed to masks, shut down, believe coronavirus is a hoax, who see these people come out and they are very quick to try and say that these people are credible. But like, this lady has an office next to a strip mall, which is not a level of credibility. Okay. These doctors some of them haven't practiced in years. Most of them aren't most of them aren't epidemiologists. On top of that, like, the website for these people got set up 2 weeks ago. These people have not been doing, this is not a thing. Okay. And so that's just not real. Right? Like,
I just realized she says she, like, first of all, she didn't have an exact number. The gap of her numbers was way too big. She was like 300, 350. Like, she didn't know. No. If you are curing people of a pandemic disease, you know exactly how many motherfuckers you kill. You're ballparking it by 50. That's a big chunk. That's the first thing. Well, the second thing, and more important to this, is I don't believe that she cured any fucking body easily, because if she was curing people, there would be a whole thing of like Rachel Maddow would be in the little fucking in that parking lot of the strip mall in down in Houston, interviewing motherfuckers like, you got cured of the coronavirus, and they're like, yeah, you know, this bitch gave me zinc. This bitch gave me zinc, and I'm all right. You know, I was fucked up a minute ago. But,
nobody is running out in the streets. Nobody's running around out in the streets like, yeah, I'm one of the 300 to 350 people. No one's, no one's doing that.
Nobody's trying to hide that, man. Like the entire game is to be the first person out with it. So let's just say all the big corporate people, well, they're corporate. They were told not to report it. That's why Rachel Maddow's on vacation. Which, by the way, it breaks my heart when she's on vacation, because I can't watch anybody else in her fucking hour. But There's nobody with a podcast. There's nobody with like fucking
right. Anybody can put out a podcast.
Nobody with a TikTok. Nobody seeing this shit. Nobody can be like, hey man, my auntie had the COVID and we gave her the zinc and the hydroxychloroquine and she was groovy, man. Like nobody. Like I had everybody that I've known that said this shit. They said they knew somebody that knew somebody. It was always my friend said her cousin did some shit. Like it was never like my mom was dying and they gave her this shit and she was groovy.
Well, here's what's disingenuous about it is like, these people will also claim that 99.5% of the people recover just fine anyway. And so you can't claim that almost nobody ends up dying from it and also that you're curing everybody of it. Like those are separate. You're not doing those two things, first of all. Second of all, Fauci broke some shit down today. I don't know, like if you are an anti-Dr. Fauci person, it's because you've never actually watched him speak and explain what's going on. Because if you are paying attention, you will understand how science works. And that is a big problem in this country, is that our citizens took like high school chemistry and they think they know how science works. And most of them didn't pass that shit. Okay. Or it doesn't matter. They took chemistry and think they know how science works. Okay. That is a problem. Okay.
Remember the kits? Remember the science kits?
But the thing is, like, most of those people didn't even get more than a C in those classes, right? So, like, the thing is that normally what happens when we find some new shit is it stays in a lab and we work out all the shit. We do all the tests, all them studies that you got paid money for in college to go get injected with some shit and then get cured. That's that shit. That's that shit. Okay. That's the shit that when they come out later and you see that drug on TV and it's like Zinzanzaboom, don't take if you fucking, if you breathe out of your mouth ever, like that shit. Like that's after they figured all this shit out with something before it even got to you. Right. Or they've been working on some shit and they figured out. This is the reason it's called novel is because it's new. And the fact that it's new means that they don't know what the fuck it is at the beginning. And every day is a new day of learning. And this is why I'm going to explain it to you for people that don't understand science. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a but I do live with a doctor. So there's some basic science I'm going to break down for people that don't get it. And we're going to try and like push this shit to the side. Okay. So here's how science works. First of all, if you're doing a study, yawn. There we go. We need the yawn here.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. Damn it.
Oh, you and all the right wingers. That'll be there forever.
Sorry, man. Hey, okay. The tea is kicking in. All right. The tea is kicking in.
So, like,
I'm fighting it like a motherfucker.
What Fauci said today is that the reason why those hydroxychloroquine studies don't matter is because they're not randomly placebo-controlled studies. And if you don't have randomly placebo-controlled studies, there is no control group. In other words, if you give 300 patients a drug and they happen to not die, that doesn't mean your drug works. It doesn't mean they didn't die because your drug works. Remember, 90 some odd percent, like you claim, aren't going to die anyway. So that is not tacit proof that those things are together. The other thing, hold on. The other thing he laid out is that all these people like to tout this. They like to say this word, peer-reviewed studies. I've got peer-reviewed studies. Peer review just means that other people reviewed the study. People review movies all the time and think they're full of shit too. Like a peer-reviewed study, peers, other scientists, for sure, review. That just means you got to do a lot of science. If you have 300 peer-reviewed studies, that means 300 scientists gave a review. All 300 of those reviews could have been, this is a bad test. These are the problems, and this is how you need to fix it. And then you get to go, I think I can solve the coronavirus problem. I've got 300 peer-reviewed studies. That doesn't mean they're good studies. You just got people to review your shit. They all gave you an F, but sure, that's not efficacy. And that is the disconnect that's happening in these people claiming they have a cure without controlled studies and claiming they have peer-reviewed studies. And what Fauci is trying to explain to people is an ever-changing thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you for real, Bobby. I think happened. I think people went to her for COVID. because they could afford her. She was in the neighborhood, and she started talking about demon semen, and they went to the regular hospital, and then she called him and said, "Why don't you come back?" And they were like, "I'm cured." She's like, "Did it again."
Yeah. Demon, I mean, you know. I'm guessing that if you don't have health insurance and you go to her, she's probably less expensive than going to an actual urgent care, right? It's probably a simpler move than going to an actual urgent care. So the other issue, I see you fighting it. Why are you drinking tea before the show, man? Why are you drinking tea before the show? You gotta stop.
It's a new tea. It's a new tea, and it's stronger than the other tea. It's way stronger than the other tea.
You got to the tea way too early.
Oh my god, this shit is like. I just saw smoke. There's nothing smoking in here.
Now. Man, we've.
Where'd that come from?
You need to change your background. Is what you need to do. Freaking everybody out. You've had that up for half an hour. The 4 white people who are watching this show are like, what are they promoting over there?
Oh man.
Hopefully they're into it.
Yeah, hopefully that's their kind of a thing. It's just, it's important to recognize the difference between real shit and the bullshit that's going on. And that's a big deal. I'd love to talk about the political trouble that Trump's been getting into, but I don't know if you're going to be able to make it through this at all.
I am. No, I'm good. I'm good. I just noticed that. Did you just put us in space, or are we always in space?
We've been. It's a new OG's background.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, have you had that up for?
We've always been in space. Yeah, it's been up here for a minute. We're gonna. You're gonna survive it, man. You're gonna be okay.
I'm good. I'm enjoying this. This is an interesting conversation. It's funny.
The other thing that came out in regards to the whole COVID thing before we move on is that
is this trademarked?
What's that?
You can't see the whole thing. You can't see the whole thing. It's cool.
I'm gonna jump us forward because that's the only way we're gonna get through this.
No, I'm good.
Did you see the Trump's tweet about wanting to delay the election?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and I kind of wonder if he said like a few months ago that when Biden said he was like crazy. I never even thought about it. What if he was telling the truth? What if Biden was the one who gave him the idea? like some Back to the Future type shit. Like he had never even considered it. He was like, that's something you could never do. And then Biden said that shit. He's like, wait a minute. Could I do that?
Could I possibly delay the election? I think the craziest shit has been the response that he's gotten from the Republican Party. They're like, fuck no, we ain't delaying no election. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like we're not delaying shit, man.
Yeah.
I think that's like, the wildest that's the wildest response.
Yeah. It is. I guess that is for whatever reason a bridge too far, which is interesting because there's a lot of norms that they've allowed him to just trample over, and to like that one that they didn't even kind of none of them wobbled on that, right?
No, they've all been pretty staunch about the idea that they have no interest in delaying the election at all. Everybody's pretty much just like, yeah, he's on his own on that one. That is not some shit. A lot
of them are losing. So.
Well, it's wild because, obviously this has to deal with everything from mail-in voting to he's setting up this thing of like the election's going to be rigged. He is setting up this idea of the election's going to be rigged, so he doesn't
have anything else because he's getting his ass kicked. And
yeah.
He's lying saying that he had his own polls, saying other thing like we aren't getting the information leaked from inside his people of them saying they're trying to show him these horrible polls and he just doesn't want to fucking see them. So he has his own polls from his own people. Like he has his own polls that his own people don't even know about. Those polls are in his fucking head because he's a psycho.
There's got to be a point here.
God, that's rude. He's crazy.
He's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. He's got narcissistic personality disorder for sure. That interview he's done for Axios where he talks about his whole Russia treaty bounty shit is a mess. That thing is he looks terrible in it. He looks terrible in that interview. That suburban lifestyle tweet where he's trying to essentially bring back redlining to the suburbs is also terrible. It's, you know,
I know exactly what he's doing because
he did it 2 years ago, and he did it.
Well, what's crazy is what's scary is I think that shit's gonna work a little bit more than motherfuckers are giving it credit for, man. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of people who, you know, regardless of how they feel about life or feel about people, they want their fucking property value to be as much as it possibly could be. And if there was a way that they thought that they could get make that happen a little bit for themselves and be evil for, like, you know, this one moment, that's something for them.
People are trying to get over when they can, you know. People are trying to get over when they can. There's been like a couple of politicians.
I mean, how many people have been just talking about fucking I did it for the tax breaks? Like, we get kids in cages, man. Fucking tax breaks. Like literally they've done, and so he is playing a tune that people don't on our side don't like to admit is a catchy fucking song.
Right.
It's a great fucking tune, man. It's a song people like to dance to.
Yeah. Speaking of that,
it's top of the charts every time somebody brings it out.
Yeah.
Every time somebody plays it, that motherfucker goes to number one.
Speaking of that tune, I came across this yesterday. There's a guy named Will Dismukes who's he's a legislator down in Alabama. I think he's a state legislator down there, and he was also a pastor at a Baptist church down there. And it came out that he had spoken at the birthday celebration. I think it was the 299th. I don't know, who gives a fuck, of Colonel Forrest or General Forrest, who was the founder of the KKK.
Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Okay, yes.
Guy founded the KKK. This guy, who's a state legislator for Alabama, went to speak at like a private celebration for this dude.
And wasn't like his first time there? He was like a returning.
No, yeah.
He was a dude that did that regularly, apparently.
It's crazy, man. Like, what pisses me off is, like, in the midst of these arguments about Black Lives Matter and trying to like generate equity, right? Equity of citizenship, and fighting against like this shit. In the midst of it, that's what's going on.
Band.
What's that?
The Unreconstructed Band.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. The name of the band was the Unreconstructed Band. That's the band that they had there. And so, like, the fact that we're still giving that airtime is insanity to me. The money that gets poured into his campaign is from, like, all these fucking Klan-related organizations. And everybody's just like, it's fine.
They play nothing but Black Eyed Peas, but not the hit. Like, this is tracks from an album that nobody knows.
The Unreconstructed Band, they just play songs by artists after they've left their group and are like the worst hits. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like it's like they play Kelly Rowland songs. They play DeVoe songs. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, because they're superior, but copyrights are expensive.
Oh shit, man! They play JC Chazé songs.
Money, so you know, we try to get Snoop Dogg, but it's too expensive. So,
we are doing this on we're doing this through Zoom today, but we're actually streaming to Facebook Live right now, and they were part of a big antitrust hearing that went on. Did you get to watch any of that?
I did not, son.
It's pretty interesting, man. Like, they attacked each of them differently. They went after each of, it was Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. And it's interesting because you forget that, like, oh yeah, like there could be like 4 or 5 or 6 different map companies out there that could compete with Google Maps if Google Maps didn't buy up every technology to make the dopest maps, which is actually government technology that's being given back to us as a product, right? So like,
people constantly, I feel like I need to remind people of this. People constantly fucking forget the airwaves, the internet that we're using right now belong to the American people.
Right.
It is, the actual technology is an American product, and it belongs to the fucking American people. And we give it to big companies so that they can innovate and create shit that makes it better for us. And that's why Apple exists, and that's why fucking AT&T and all these other companies exist and how they exist. However, that's our shit.
Right.
And we have a right to use the shit. And I don't know.
Yeah, so they went after Google for how Google's expanded their search to like, it used to be where if you search for something, you had all these different options, right? You had all these different companies that would pop up, and now Google tries to answer your question for you, and they rate things and they do all this other stuff. So like all that is different than what it used to be, right? Like Yelp has been pushed way down because Google rates things now, so they're a competitor. You know, whenever you want to look for movies, the first things that pop up, or flights, the first thing that pop up, if you just search flights, is Google's flight thing, not Kayak, not Orbitz, not whatever the fuck is out there, right? They always have if they can find a product, they have that, and then they push you down in the search rankings, which is their whole job, is search.
What's crazy is it's not like this was even a long time ago. Fucking Microsoft got split up for doing basically the same shit.
2008.
Yeah, and how have we not learned? But either how has legislation not learned that we need to monitor this shit so it doesn't happen like this again? And how have they? Is it just the nature of the business that is it just the nature of business and capitalist system that they're just going to constantly do that anyway? Or is there, because
I mean, Zuckerberg's argument was we made Instagram better. Instagram was good, but we look at how big Instagram is. Now, Instagram was already pretty big. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, but Instagram
was already pretty big. That's why Facebook started their own. That's why Facebook was pushing their own photo sharing shit for a while, and then they bought theirs, right?
Yeah.
Remember, Facebook was launching their own photo shit.
It was, and they tried to compete, and then But here's my point. Here's the thing. Even if he says that they made them better, the influx of cash did probably help them grow. However, if I'm old enough to remember, and so are you, old enough to remember Ma Bell getting split up in the 80s, or in, I think, 1980 exactly. And when that companies within 10 years were worth more than the original Ma Bell ever was.
Yep.
Okay. So splitting, making Messenger its own thing, making Instagram, letting it be its own thing again.
Yeah.
Splitting those things up does not hurt those companies from innovating. They have followers, they have the money now. Let those motherfuckers split and they'll probably be worth more. The only thing that gets hurt is Mark Zuckerberg's ego, because he doesn't get to run them all at the same time.
Yeah, and the thing with Apple,
he'll still own the money. He'll still get the money. He just doesn't get to run it.
Yeah, the big fight with Apple was over the App Store, essentially, and the fact that, you know, Apple makes apps to compete with other apps that they charge those companies to have on their App Store, right? So like
Amazon does the same shit.
Apple takes 15 or 30% depending on the app that you're making, and then Apple makes a competing app, and then they don't charge any. You know, obviously it's in house, so there is no 15 or 30%. So like if Apple sells an app for $10 and they make it, they get $10, and if you sell it, you get $7. That's which is, and Apple goes, well, you know, you don't have to be in the App Store. There's other app stores you can go to. There's one other app store, and that's Android. That's the only other app store that's out there. So that's the issue with them. And then what was it? Facebook. It's
about 50-50 in the marketplace now, right?
Yeah. And then Amazon, of course, their issue is they do the same thing. They build their own product, and then they compete and they push down,
which is super shitty, because the entire thing about Amazon was that it was a marketplace for people to, like, you got some shit you want to sell. Like, it was designed to be a small business. Like, you can Jeff Bezos, like, that was kind of the thing Amazon was.
Yeah.
And now they just like, oh man, you created a really cool thing. We're gonna take that without paying you.
Yeah. We're gonna we have the money to either buy you out because your thing is competitive, or we can make that same product for cheaper because we have the money to do that, and then price you out of the market.
To make the same thing,
which is the easiest fix. So the bigger issue is not only do they do that, but because they get all of the customer data, right? Like because everything is done through their platform, technically, even though they're not supposed to, they do have access to all customer data. So they have access to the customers that this company's been getting. And so they could just pop up like, you might also like XYZ, and it's their product and it's cheaper. And you go, oh yeah, fuck that, I'll take that one. And that's how they're able to compete at a level that makes it more. It's not even just they're making a competing product. They have all the customer data for the customers of this company and then compete directly, which they're, that was the thing. So Amazon is, I think, an easy.
It's such an asshole. It's such an asshole move. It makes me think of, you ever read Othello?
Yeah, Othello's one of my favorites, man.
Yeah. I can't wait. What's the little dude's name?
Iago.
Iago, the dude that's shady, the motherfucker,
man.
He's telling us one thing, he's on some other side shit, man. That's what they all are. Somebody needs to just name. That's what it's foul. It's foul.
Amazon's the easiest fix because it's really just like controlling that, right? They can still be a platform where they share. They can even compete, you know what I mean? But they just they need to close off some of those loopholes that allow that to happen. The rest of the company should probably be broken up.
Pay you. They just have to pay you. They should have to pay you royalties for you took their fucking idea.
Super smart.
Even if it's a bunch of people that got it, okay. Look, they can do it. They can look at their marketplace because the reason why there is a event horizon's not the right word I want to say, but there's a point in which it triggers the algorithm when enough sales are happening. It triggers the algorithm to makes Amazon think, but making their own version of it is valuable. It's worth it.
Right.
So if there's a bunch of small businesses that make it, all they have to do is figure out what part of that, same way fucking major businesses look and say, we have this much market share of the industry in this area. Do the same thing, fucking small businesses. See who has the market share, pay them accordingly.
Yeah.
Pay them accordingly off the pieces you sell.
Last thing before we get out of here, I don't know what it was, a month or two ago, there was news that came out about Chris D'Elia and his involvement or potential or alleged involvement with women who were not quite 18 at the time. It just came out, I guess, yesterday that Brian Callen, who is also a comic who is on Goldberg's, he's been in a bunch of the Hangover movies.
Oh, wow.
Funny Sam comic. There's been like 3 or 4 accusations from actresses, other comics about some not so awesome shit that for the sake of not freaking anybody, I'm not going to get direct into the details of, but not awesome. Not awesome. I met Brian a few times. I when I lived in LA, he used to be at a comedy house parties I used to go to before I was ever in comedy. I've seen him in public, and that's been essentially it. That's about the extent of my knowing of him. He's all, I'm a guy, so I don't have a whole lot of like, the best I can tell you is in the 5 times I've probably run into him, he's been normal, but that doesn't mean it fucking anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I've met killers who I didn't know were killers at the time either, and found out later too. So they were also nice to me when I met them. But when you're 6'2", 40, that happens sometimes. So that's not a thing. But I think it's crazy because there are enough funny comics that even if you are a misogynist and you only want to replace the comics who are sexual assault guys with male comics, there's still enough funny comics you could do that.
Yeah.
You could still just like, and I'd love to find out that everything was not true and then all that, but like, there's a lot of, it's tough, man. It's I'm not burying anybody because I don't know anybody's story. I think it's worthwhile to, believe the possibility of truth in things. I think that a lot of us aren't there for those things. I think a lot of things happened long ago. I don't know what that's supposed to mean for anybody. I know Netflix has taken off the D'Elia Callen sketch show or whatever they were trying to plan. I think some lost work probably comes from credible accusations. I don't know how much further. I just don't really know how to even do that anymore. I don't know what the appropriate punishments are supposed to be.
It really is, man. I was just, earlier today, Peter John, Peter John, right?
Yeah, Peter John Burns is great, man. Shout out to Peter John Burns.
Yeah, Peter John Burns, awesome.
Love shout
outs. He was talking about how, somehow we got into the conversation how all Bill Cosby movies were bad anyway. Right. And he was like, actually, there was one that was good, and it was the only movie that some other famous actor directed. And he got 2 copies of it by accident from Amazon. And, Amazon doesn't, something like that, you don't have to send it back. And
right.
he was trying to give it to somebody after all the Cosby shit broke. and nobody would take it. I feel like I semi-remember him even posting it. Now that I'm telling this story, I feel like this happened today, but I feel like remember him posting something online about it like years ago that nobody would take the fucking Cosby movie because nobody wanted to be associated, even though it was like a good Cosby movie. They was just like, I had an extra one.
It's a good one.
They gave it away. They tried to sell it, or like, you know, or do it like at a yard sale, like for free. Just take it.
Right.
And he said the way they got rid of it was that his wife gave it away as a white elephant gift.
Oh man, could you imagine getting
now
that?
That person like
now that person's trying to give it away.
You hate me. Like, why would you do this to me? It's like a curse. The curse of the fucking Bill Cosby movie.
All that means is there's somebody that you don't know who's now trying to give that movie away. That's what that means.
By the way, they were both like it was Adam Burke and Peter John, and they were being very tender about not wanting to say Uptown Saturday Night and Let's Do It Again were bad movies. And I was like, they were blaxploitation movies. They were all bad.
They're all bad. Yeah, they were all bad.
There's, I think, maybe one or two of them that you're like, they're good and you're surprised at the end because you just kept waiting for it to go like horrible or something like, oh shit, this actually was a good movie. Like that's why they're like awards. That's why they're lauded. It's like, oh snap, with almost no budget and you just found motherfuckers off the street, you still made a masterpiece.
You actually finished it. Right. Look at what we do with nothing, you know?
You still managed to make a motherfucking amazing movie. How is that possible? God damn, that's why they get so lauded, like the ones that we remember. The ones that were actually good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey man, where can people find you this week? Besides the floor of your house later today.
Hey man. Hey,
I'll be staring at the stars from 9:45 to 11:30.
Let me tell you something. I'm a goddamn hero. There was fucking music and all kind of shit. These lights in this motherfucker were going crazy the whole show, fam. I held it together.
You survived it.
You're watching the show and you go back and look back when I said this the team was kicking in and watch the show after that. I kept it fucking together.
You did.
Right?
You did a great job.
There's all kind of shit going on right now. Okay? I'm this far away from cartoons appearing in front of me. But at XL Comedy on Facebook, Twitter, and IG, XL Comedy Show also.
Speaking of which, you should watch Speed Racer if that's a spot that you're in right now. The Wachowski Brothers version. It's one of the best movies to watch on Mushroom.
It really is.
Right now, the Wachowski Brothers.
I gotta go up and watch
Mushroom and Weed. Yeah. You can.
Garage, I will be in this motherfucker balled up, crying and shit. Like
Hold on, that and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You got
I did that already. I did that like a week ago, I think. And my girl, this shit's funny, man. My girl like just left the room, and I was like, I didn't give a fuck. I was way into that movie, man. That movie was fucking amazing. It's an amazing movie when you're fucking on shrooms. Oh my God.
You can find me at Mocha_Jesus on Twitter and Instagram. You can find the show at New OGs Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at People of Comedy. Go to check out all their shows there. They are tremendous. Go to YouTube, find the New OGs, subscribe, rate us wherever you are. Find us wherever you listen to pods. We'll have this audio out on Monday for you. Hopefully we'll have a midweek mini for you too. Thank you guys for checking in. That's what's up.
Authentic Touch, baby. What's up? My shit's fresh as fuck.
Yeah, it is.
Lonnie, baby. Lonnie Reed.
Country grandma, fuck the rumors. Give a fuck about a story too. Why you so mad that I can't fit you on my schedule? Why you jealous?